Knowledge is power.
Reality is.
Yeah, no, I entirely understand that. I tend to do the same thing. Listening back as I've been doing these podcast episodes, I listen back to myself and I'm like, I know what I was talking about, but I don't think that the people
Yep.
listening do. So
Mm-mm-mm.
that's just fine with me. So welcome everyone. Welcome, Set. I appreciate your time once again. Can we just start with? I would like to start with, if you're willing, your personal background, kind of how you even got into these subjects. Like what led you in this direction?
The general direction was human rights, and that as I read and I studied at university about human rights, and maybe also subject that I've been sensitive to through personal experience from having heard stories or seen people victim of horrific situation in poor quarters, for example. I mean, in the case of human trafficking, it's not like a poor country's situation. Me, I live in Europe, in rich countries, and there is human trafficking happening, where there's well, obviously, where people are more exploitable. But for example, the criteria are of being exploited or being trafficked, and this even in Europe. Also, what is that amplify the taboo about trafficking is that trafficking is a new word. It has been officialized only in the year 2000 by the UN and by the US. Before, it was not considered a crime. So for in the example of sexual exploitation, it was treated as prostitution. So basically, of course, the term before used to be slavery, but so yes, there are like concepts such as rape or maybe coercion and so forth, but he was really more confused in the law, and certainly less tackled because the juridic system was weak, is still very weak, but
Right.
was even weaker before. So trafficking is a word that happened very, very recently, but you don't have to go very far to see people that are trafficked sexually in what was called prostitution of for example, migrants, illegal migrants. This person will be criminalized because of having no paper, for example. It doesn't matter, and it's still the case, and it's even still the case with children, so people under 18. But at least in the US, it's still the case. It's notoriously the case, but people that are complete victim of trafficking are in fact criminalized because yes, or because they have been targeted because they are illegal immigrants. So no one will say, oh yeah, but you are trafficked, because any other trafficker gets away with that because they are called smugglers. Instead, I'm not saying there is no smugglers. Smugglers exist, yeah, but the traffickers, which are not smugglers, or are part of smuggling, because one of a big way of luring people into trafficking is to say, there's in another country, there's a good job waiting for you, or simply because they've got to migrate because of economic or safety, security
they'll
issue,
trick
and so
them.
forth. It's one of parameters in the definition of human trafficking is coercion. Coercion, or people that that make you think that you are not trafficked, but you are. Basically, is what is the simplest, and what is done is that they make people believe they will get a job, and instead of a job, they are made slave. And there's no way for them to react. In case of migrants, I think it's like kind of easy for the mafia, because we can't before knowing that you don't think it's possible, because these people, if they are forced and if they are in prison, but in fact they are in the street, so you would think, but they can go and tell the police and so forth, and stop the circle happening. But this is not their situation. Their situation is that they are, for example, illegal. They have got nowhere to go. They are in economic. They are extremely poor. Probably trafficking is such an extent of torture that there's drug-related addiction and so forth. And for the illegal migrants, anyhow, and maybe also inside, it's very easy for the mafia, because they tell them, you know what, if you go, we know where you live, we know where your family is, and there will be retribution. So they can't even go back, because and you have
So okay, so you're coming to me from France, right?
yeah.
And I'm over here in Texas in America. So where you're at and where I'm at, what does trafficking look like? So is this? I mean, because I feel that my level of knowledge on human trafficking is kind of just from movies and occasional news articles that I see. Like, I don't really know exactly how it happens. So in where you're at and where I'm at, how are people lured in, and how can we spread awareness to help each other out and look out for signs and symptoms, or to just have more knowledge to help each other out, before preventative wise. So I just feel knowledge is power there. So
this would take you would need a professional to answer this, but a few words I can say on this is that for example, in the case of children, what organization will tell you on and on and on is that there is a trap. The big trap is that there is not stereotype person that is a trafficker, for example.
Okay, I understand.
So it's not as easy as that to recognize. For example, for children as well, there is examples, and in fact they are really more common than one would think. But it's not a child that would be completely imprisoned into sexual slavery. What might be almost the common place situation is that a child is still socialized. So even if you see a child at school, it doesn't mean that during the weekend it is not trafficked, basically.
Oh, wow.
In the US, in France, in Europe, maybe in the UK it's worse, but in France, I think there's more social protection and so forth, so it's less threatening at the moment. But in the US, and this is state figures, and it's not organization figure, is really official figure from the US state department. Yeah, there is 300,000 child that are at risk of sexual at risk of sexual exploitation a year. 300,000 children in the US.
That's insane.
And yeah, so of course it's completely insane. It is that, but maybe this figure might be explained because kind of not lessened but explained because the volume is so incredible. Yeah, but you might be at risk of exploitation once, not at a regular basis. Yeah. Also, it's explained by the social situation. Big atrocities like this doesn't happen in, and it's so the volume of it, because of course isolated example, there's kind of they are very complicated to prevent, yeah. But so large amount of people victim of it are explained by a social situation. Homelessness explain a lot. I mean, the children that will be trafficked, classically they will be from the social services. The social services are the longest history of not being responsible for the children they are under their care. It is notorious that if you are a child like in care of cared by the social service in foster family or home and so forth, the amount of proportion of these kids ending up in criminality and prostitution is really high. And this might be explained by of course, by something that is very difficult to replace a good quality parenting. Also because there is this problem that you are dealing sometimes with children that experience trauma, sometimes extreme traumas, and at 18 they are out of the door. And at 18 you are certainly still a baby, and there is no work for you and so forth, and is the open door at being predated upon, basically. And it's what is done, obviously. Yeah,
that is it's so terrible. I didn't realize that the numbers were that high. I mean,
yes, it's I insist on this figure because the figures about human slavery is so impressive that from time the figures and the facts it's sometimes so overwhelming and completely that you didn't know you were part of this culture, but you spend the times checking the fact and rechecking the fact, because you think at one point, oh no, but I must have misread it. Okay, it's been, right. I find it 10 times, but where is the official sources, and to do more academic job on it. But every time I'm like, oh, no, I've got to check that. Every time I spend like hours checking what the official source is, it's very official, and
Still true,
it is, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So where are we at in the fight against it, in the resolution, in solving the problem? So what do we? I mean, obviously we have people like you who are spreading awareness, and your blog is very helpful for these sorts of things. The work that you do, but who else? What other types of people do you work with? What are the movements that you guys have going on?
For first, I don't know if my blog is really useful, because even as a way to distribute information, we've got a lot of problem with fake news and so forth. But it's kind of amusing when you do something with university, for example, where the data and the checking, whatever. I'm not sure people read, because every time we want to refer to official sources, right? So basically, what is on the web is very wide scope, but what we are trying to aim at is very restrictive, because because I mean, at university it's a bit irrelevant, but in university you can't even say that you saw the secondary source is from a website, for example.
Mm-hmm. So it's
But
disregarded.
it's not peer reviewed. Yeah. So if you are not writing this from your office at university, this won't be read, basically.
Right.
So even the guys at university are not read. So there is a question about if really information is circulating, and what it's worth. Of course it is worth, but you see, you ask me about what we are doing. Me, I can only speak for myself. I try to for very particular topic. I would have been interested in working for organization, but I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't get employed, so this is it. But I wanted to not as a volunteer, not to get paid. To reach people, to reach organization about one topic in particular that I think was regarded even by professional, especially professional against that try to fight slavery and sexual slavery in particular. And this was, for example, the fact that there is religion who regard their highest clerics, or in the case of Islam, for example, their prophet. And so as of course the ultimate model, as we all know, because it's one of on the first formula that is circulating there, and that when you realize that the prophet of Islam, for example, has got 4 spars, and the 4th one is mainly most people from the Islam religion will tell you that she's underage, and well underage, but most people believe, and in most scripture, that she's under 10. When she's been well, sexually enslaved by Mohammed, basically, and also sexual slavery in Islam was under this prophet was. He was in the book. It is inscribed in what one of what is said to be holy books. Yes, so sexual slavery, murders, and beheading, and so forth. It is inscribed, and so for example, I try to contact organization on this topic, and I couldn't try to target more specialized organization, and every time the answer, and then I followed through, because it's not I may have sent thousands of email to people to speak about more than human slavery, but human rights. Yeah, but this I did follow through. Yeah, I rang and try to obtain an answer, and the answer is no, it's not our area. We can't do that. It's not our area. And there is no more specialized than this. Yeah, than it's slavery. That is all. Yeah, there is also a bizarre fact about bizarre is it's not. I don't have the English là, sorry, so sad basically. It's only in 2017 that child marriage has been regarded as human trafficking. Only in 2017. Before, it was basically not regarded as slavery, basically. It was like regarded as traditional, certainly like this traditional or cultural aberration, certainly, but it's only by the UN, by the United Nations, just incorporated child marriage into their slavery figures only in 2017.
Wow.
And it's very big to know that, because it means that 5 years ago, child marriage didn't have legal protection. The child marriage, one, it's disgusting to use this term, right? Because it's not, it's no marriage at all. I mean, it's just that it's slavery on a piece of paper. It's like and yeah. So it's only since 2017 that child marriage benefit from slavery closure on it. Before, it was, just marriage. And also this, for example, with child marriage is really underestimated. And the reason why it's underestimated is because, for example, UNESCO, the Right of Child Convention is being signed by every country in the world. The only country that didn't sign it is the US and Somalia.
Why did the US not sign it?
Alors, this is a bit of a mock by his use at university, because when you look at the legal perspective on it, they will say the people that advocate for not signing it will tell you, no, but you know what, our legal framework are really better. We're not gonna sign for a convention that is less by our own standards. But this is absolute joke to say that, because one, a convention is a convention, so it's not a treaty, so you don't have to follow it, Also, there's the law. The law is the spirit of the law. You follow the letter of the law, but you follow the spirit of the law. It means that if you sign a paper that are promoting child rights, even if there's a problem with the letter, if the spirit of the law say no, you protect child right, it's certainly not to abuse children rights. You see, so whatever. But this is a big joke. The reason why the US didn't sign it is because you still practice child marriage.
Do you think, I really like you said spirit of the law. I think that's very important. I think that's something that we're losing a lot of is the essence, the spirit of the law, rather than just following like how you're talking about, you keep getting transferred to different people. They're like, oh, that's not our department, or we don't handle that, or whatever. We're following the script too much, where the spirit of the law is not being followed. We forget what it's all about, right?
Yeah, but also the problem will be as well that is a constant subject of argument. This would be the problem, is that I mean we are from different system from Roman law and common law, so yes, how to interpret laws, and is very big in the US or in the UK, because he's the judge is doing the job basically, instead of just applying the law. This is more European. In Roman law, the judge will be more applying the laws, and in the US and the UK, so Anglophone countries, even so Commonwealth and so forth, the judges are really much more important, because they will interpret the law a lot of more. But the problem is that also without clear letter and clear framework, then it's a bit they do whatever they want. On top, they are extremely powerful, because it's the rule of precedent. That is to say, if they do something once, the other judges is gonna read about what they did, and they will follow precedent. So it's why you have been so big story with your Supreme Court, and because judges, yes, so interpret, whatever, yeah. So yes, so we are caught in any way. So.
Yeah, it's so silly. We're mistaking the map for the territory in many ways. You've talked about censorship. I think censorship is an important topic, because I mean it's filtering in with our advancement of technology and the internet, and even things like YouTube. We're really starting to say this is truth and this is not truth, and these companies are blocking certain content, around the pandemic, the Corona-19 virus, all this stuff. It's getting more and more complicated. So I think that censorship is important to talk about. I know that you've spoken on the censorship in China, and I think that is a good place to go. I think it's a good place to look at for what we don't like.
Yeah. Censorship is everywhere. Huh?
Yeah.
Censorship is everywhere. It's in every country. When you study the capitalist way of producing censorship, in fact, is done through self-censorship. There is a very interesting paper on how basically the audience is censoring the artist, the publisher is censoring the author, and the author is censoring himself, because they want to they cannot not be doing some sales and so forth. So censorship, it's really everywhere. But in China, it's the top league, basically, yeah. And also China being a one-party system, this is changing the whole game. By the way, today they just said that at school, the pupils will have to learn about Xi, so the president reform and political spirit of philosophy and so forth, right? So is the sign from we know about China that is going on and on and on. You know, China is as a history of, or at least I've been told that of closing and opening and closing and opening and closing, and so 15 years ago. It was opening phase, and it's. Yes, it's 10 years ago. Yes, I think it's 10 years ago, maybe a little bit less. Well, since Xi, you see, because, for example, he became chief of the army, for example, yeah. So more and more concentrated power, and yeah, censorship in China, well, it's so full, yeah. You know, for example, and I guess, yes, for sure, he has already been the case. But China is still like a secret continent almost, yeah. You know, it's completely another scripture and so forth. It's a bit secret. It's communist, so he's also kept their secret well, and you can't really dissent. So you know the kind of research and peer review research, you know, the amount of research of what is done or has been done is become very difficult to produce and readable in English. It's really less than it should be, because as we know, China is absolutely huge and is very old and is super active. So I guess the research gap is appalling, and there is no one that can speak to you in China because well. So you know that in China, if you say something about the regime, about the Communist Party, you lose your job. It's not joke. It's not joke. Yeah. Plus, they are now, it's not they are now. Yes, we and I would say the Chinese people too, are now losing Hong Kong. Because now Hong Kong is not gonna be two-party system, this little island where still internet is not censored, because in China, internet is big object of censorship. In China, you go in mainland China, you don't have Google. You have Google China, but you don't have a website. Your podcast will never be seen by common Chinese people. Is censored. The blogs we write never be gonna is not possible. There's no access to channel people to blogs and podcasts from the Western world, right? YouTube is all censored. There is no one video from YouTube that, as a Chinese, you can watch in China. And before that, he was not too attacked. So you could, if you had a little money, you could have a VPN. So VPN is the way to circumvent the internet and what is censored in your country. You in fact can view it because you are a user that, like if you were in another country. So, but this now and CCS is like 10 years ago, a little bit less. The VPN, they say, look, if you want to watch in China, what is censored in China, if you want, they say to the Chinese people, if you want to circumvent, circumvent it with a VPN. If you want to watch it with a VPN, like you were not in China, like you were in the US, so you watch something censored by the Chinese party, if you are caught doing it, it's prison.
Yeah.
So you're just a citizen, you want to watch a video on YouTube from the Western world. It's like Israel is the model of North Korea at that point. You go to prison just because you watch a video from the Western world. Is this amount of censorship? And it's well guarded because, okay, you would say, oh, YouTube, and people are becoming so rich. I mean, the Google is gonna own the place. The Facebook are gonna own the place. So you understand why Chinese what they did is that they've got a YouTube, the equivalent of YouTube, but it's Chinese one. And the money, of course, come to China, and why you would understand why they do it. But it is not clearly only question of money. Is because yes, it's and there is no way you can say, okay, bon, but people will go on the the Chinese will talk on their own. In their own papers or video or website and so forth. No, they can't. If they say anything wrong about the Bao is a very famous teacher at university. He only said something about fundamental freedom, and he went to prison. He died in prison and so forth. Only with a paper, with on this paper some kind of political ideas of some kind.
Yeah. Have you heard any of or heard of Yeonmi Park? She had escaped from North Korea, and she's been an author, kind of doing some podcasts recently, and she spoke on the state of North Korea, and it was so eye opening to me. It's kind of similar to this. Really seeing how similar China and North Korea kind of are becoming in a way. Yeah, wow. It's very difficult for us to think like that, we have so much freedom over here in America that for me to not be able to pick up my phone and watch whatever I want to watch, we can't even wrap our heads around that.
Yeah, yes, it's true, but yes, true, but I mean, it's true, yeah, but I wouldn't word it like this because, of course, compared to this, it is what you just say. In comparison, we've got so much freedom, right? But me, I wouldn't forget the fact of how censor we are in capitalist country. That there is no way. There is no way because, for example, is when you see so many of these scandals. For example, financial scandals. But you know that, for example, it is known the big company they cook the books. There's BBC doing a series on that. It's Aaron and yeah, it's so cooked. Or I mean, it's so gross. Usually, is that is kind of amusing. Is because it's so gross that we lose the grasp of any reality. Basically, the inequality is so gross. Or, for example, the way it's badly done. The way we show that if we are in some profession, we're gonna see how much we pollute, for example, due just out of sheer negligence. If you were doing things properly and in a different way, and and this is like national level, for example, if we stop using the amount of plastic, that we know is gonna ruin our health, ruin this planet, and so forth. And no, in fact, it's true. There's no censorship. We can talk about this, you and me. I don't even do it under my true name, because I've written, and I written maybe in a bit liberal way, but about slavery and about religious extremism, and also veganism, and the persecution of homosexuals in African countries that put in prison because of their sexuality and so forth, and many people know about it, yeah. And also it's the way you write, yes, I'm not censored, but I don't feel I can do this under my own name, because of a scrutiny I will be under, and that I know that this is gonna be linked with my living, with my job, with the employer that will look and see if they agree with what I've been said. Also, there is censorship in capitalist country. Capitalist. My guess is that China is capitalist as well. So it is not. I mean, it's a communist party. It's a one party, but it's an open market. So it's not any longer. Doing things, communally, and so, whatever, yeah. But yes, for example, a whistleblower have been treated. This is a very excellent way of assessing how much censorship there is in a country. And I'd say even in France, because it's a bit of a pompous patriotic reaction. Yes, in France they are treated appallingly. Also, we see our system is changing because of what we have been told it was, and how it is changing is so it's even more shocking. Is, for example, if you investigate on a company, and if they choose to say that you don't have a proof, or enough proof, and that to say that this company really have done something very wrong, and so forth. For journalists, it is becoming very, very, very dangerous to investigate and to share any information they found, because if it's not proven by A plus B, if it's only witnesses and so forth, what they've got to pay the newspaper of a journalist to have propagated the information is really bad. So basically, no one is gonna want it to investigate, to say anything any longer, because if you say anything, but I mean, of course, it's good that you can't say anything about anyone just to slander them. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, but I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about company that are completely unscrutinized. They can do whatever way they want. Of course, they've got so many ways to hide what should be controlled, and should be assessed, and should be stopped, because it creates misery, and it's not done. And there's only the journalists left trying to do their job, and they can't do anymore, because so the level of censorship, and we know it also in a capitalist system, where we know our newspaper are controlled more and more by one person only. And this person are multi-billionaire, and so independence in publication is all but gone. And in university is the same. University and here are funded by a dictatorship.
Yeah.
University, there's a big amount of university receiving an enormous amount of funding from countries such as Saudi Arabia, China, Qatar, and so forth.
Yeah.
So what if you receive funding from a dictatorship? We know about Qatar, who is living and thriving on pure slavery, on pure trafficking. They hold their staff. They don't allow them to do anything but work. If they go outside, they are caught by the police, and their passport are thrown out of window. And is this, yeah, and this system are totally linked with Western one university, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's scary how interchangeable or like intertwined everything really is. Set, where do you see the role as a journalist yourself? Where do you see the role of journalists right now? You know, in this time of fake news and all of these conflicts of interest. There's a lot of journalists who are not doing their job well. So what if you had if you had to say something to the other journalists, what would it be? I mean, because I think we need some courageous people right now. We need some courageous journalists who are doing the hard work and speaking the truth, and not censoring themselves.
Yeah, but I'm not sure about that, because there is a legal framework. And if anything that you do you're gonna be sure is gonna be the enslavement of yourself. If you know that, for example, you will, such as whistleblowers, yeah, because in that case, journalists are whistleblowers, and such as whistleblowers, I mean, it's typical. The way it's a good example of how the framework will work. For example, you witness something, so there's a big problem as an employee, yeah. But of course, you are not the CEO, so there's papers to prove that is happening. That you cannot produce this. Only the senior that can produce this paper, yeah. But nonetheless, you go to court and you say there's this and this and this happening. Yes, and only what the judge had to do is to say, okay, bon, so you are a CEO or you are a manager of this place. I need you to give me this amount of paper to prove that you are doing things well. Okay, so all that should be happening, yeah. But the judge is never ever will never ask for this paper, never. Yeah, so they are so it's impossible for you to report anyone, because the legal framework is not there here. And so only what is left to you is to do your own justice, which you cannot. And on top of it, you just lost your job doing this, in case of whistleblower. And certainly the legal framework here will work perfectly to say that you have been bad, you have been blah blah blah, so you've lost your job. But not only this, you lost your civic credibility. And also, then you've got to find another job in another company who will do the same. Because if they can get away with it and earning more money by this, and so being more competitive or more widespread, these criminals that are going to rule at the end, because they just make money out of the misery they are creating, and therefore rule. So it's a vicious circle. And as well, I would be very, very asking for example, is just what I've heard on the radio today, is to say to be positive and to say, oh, maybe Afghan people, it's a courageous, the courageous people and resilient people, and there is many people in the West that I've heard, or many, not many, but there's a few saying that they will react against Taliban being back. But this is crazy, because if an army such as the U.S. Army cannot fight the Taliban, if the Taliban is protected by Pakistan, like he has been for years and years, that is pushing for this, that there is what we know about ISIS and Al Qaeda. Even I think it's ISIS that don't like the Taliban. Doesn't matter, and it's the same hell they have they are here to offer. And on top of it, that the Taliban is backed by China and Pakistan, because Pakistan and China are friends and so forth. And the only thing that you say, that we can say, because it's the situation we're in, is no, we have to, the Afghan people is resilient, and they will have the courage to resist. There's no courage to resist, because they are done, basically. They are done by in fact, it's beyond me, because the situation is so bewildering that. There is no courage in their. I mean, yes, there is courage, but they're gonna be executed. Yes, they are being executed right now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's certain liberties that we have by being able to even be courageous. So even someone being able to start a podcast is something that not everybody has the chance to do. So do you think that a lot of these important conversations are going to start happening on places like podcasts and like the Clubhouse app, if you've heard of that, just because clearly we need to get away from our institutions to have these important conversations, because our institutions have their own versions of corruptions and blind spots. So the future of these types of conversations where we talk about important things, do you think, I mean, do you think stuff like this is kind of how it's going to go? Can this make it better? Like if we look at the next 20 years, 10 years, whatever it is, how do we get away from the institutions controlling what's being said and not said?
I'm not sure. As I would say, is I'm not full, because it's so again, it's not really relevant to your point, but as human trafficking, there's and mirroring censorship, I would say, is I would give the same answer, is that I don't think that it looks like if it's going to get better. For the simple fact that, yes, there is awareness and an opening and information circulating. Maybe more awareness, I'm not sure. Because, for example, they are very close community. To answer a question before, of my own experience as how you circulate the information, So the only thing that I've got an experience in a little bit is through Facebook. A lot of social media information is circulating on Facebook. Well, Facebook is a great example, right? The circulation of information is just only done within circles, and very similar circles. Basically, on Facebook, if you want information of human trafficking, first you need to be a member of one of the group on human trafficking. Basically, is this, well, maybe on group on human rights. It means that you are already one that knows that this problem exists. And then you sign up, and then you become like a pseudo specialist amateur. But if you want, if you are on Facebook, I am on Facebook. I know I've got a very important information for you, for me to give to you. I've got to pay. I cannot come into your profile and say, hey, you know what, Jacob, did you know about that, right? I cannot, if I want to do that, or we are from the same group, already we are signed up on human trafficking. Because if I do something on human trafficking and we exchanging while we were a group of cat lovers, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, I'm gonna be or censored or removed, or my comment is gonna be removed, or I'm gonna be removed from the group. You know what I mean? Yeah. So basically, we are trying to build some kind of awareness and so forth. And it's why, but it's not possible because it's very unclosed group. And we've got a problem facing with capitalism is the advertisement is king. That is to say, anything you want to do, whatever it is for your business or or it is for your organization or your newspaper, you've gonna to pay to contact
to
people.
sell it,
it's not free. Not free. And so yeah, and you've got this, and also for human trafficking, when the question is, is it gonna get better? Yeah. The context is a context where this world is facing so many problems already, and that there is so many problems that we know are to come due to our negligence, due to our madness, to be honest. Because the amount of problem we're gonna have with nature, for example, that can't survive what we are doing to the planet. It cannot, yeah. So there's climate change, but also there as well the level of pollution and poison. It's everywhere, on air, on soil, on water, and so forth. And one day the plants will stop to grow, yeah. And there's diseases, of course. Diseases on the, before we had like, I don't know, 1,000 variety of cereals and legumes and so forth, and now we've got 10 or 20.
Yeah, we're not living a very sustainable future right now at all.
No.
Wow. Well, I mean, we are getting up here in time, so I do want to round the corner. I thank you for not only your time again, but for just all the work that you do. It really is important. It's powerful, and I mean, I appreciate everything that you do, Set. It's wonderful, and it's the right thing to do. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having invited me. It's very nice.
Yeah, of course. So I will include in the texted written out description down below. This will probably be a few weeks out. I'm getting a little bit of a backlog, but I will include your website and whatnot. Is there anything else you'd like to include? Is there anything anywhere else you want to send people? Any listeners?
Yes. Well, we talked about the rest. So the rest of what I to talk in priority is veganism and the torture we inflict on animals instead of feeding ourselves with plants that are very healthy and so forth. It's not because I like killing plants, but it's to avoid killing animals. It's a bit complicated philosophically, but yes, to stop torturing cows and mammals and any animals, yeah, to feed ourselves is I think very important, because people funnily, and we are in culture that is so tightly linked with meat eating as inspirational and linked with strength and wealth and so forth, that there is many people that love animals and that don't get their eating them at the same time. So it's why I think it's very important to spread the word on veganism. And also I would like to spread the word about our LGBT people are put into prison for their sexual orientation in Africa, in Middle East, and in country I'd say like which country, but even country benefiting from tourism, such as Kenya, for example.
Wow. Well, I mean, thank you, Set. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for spreading the word on all of these things. I'll include that in the description. It looks like you've been being featured on some other podcasts as well. So if they search your name, even just on YouTube, you can find some more interviews with Set if you enjoyed or you found it interesting what we talked about today. So Cetvies, thanks one more time. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Listeners, take care of yourselves, love yourself, drink some water, stretch, just try to be centered, and look out for one another. All right, take care. Bye, Set.
Bye.
At what age do we learn how to have better conversations? At what age do we learn to have better conversations with ourselves?
Knowledge is power.